Electric cars are coming, and sooner than you might think. Almost any manufacturer that you can name either already has one on sale today or has one not far off. But the first premium brand to get one to market, aside from Tesla, is Britain's Jaguar with its I-Pace SUV. The I-Pace is powered by two electric motors fed by a 90 kilowatt-hour battery, giving it 395 horsepower and an official range of 298 miles, almost identical to that of Tesla's SUV, the Model X. An overnight home charge to 80% will take around 10 hours, while a public rapid charger will take about 85 minutes, although this is expected to drop to 40 minutes when the network is upgraded, likely next year. The premium allure of a Jaguar, the car's amazing design and that impressive range were enough for the I-Pace to win our 2018 Reader Award poll by an absolute landslide. But what will our readers think when they dig a little deeper? We've brought them here to Jaguar's design showroom in Coventry to find out. So why are you interested in the I-Pace?
Really interested in electric motoring, but the thing that really caught my eye is that it's a new shape. That I love that I've walked in here and they call it an SUV, and I wouldn't call it an SUV, I don't know what I'd call it. So I'm really fascinated just to see Jaguar creating kind of a new shape of car. But I'm also interested to see if it lives up to, you know, these are 70-odd thousand pound cars, and I want to see if it feels like a 70 grand car, as well as all the smart stuff underneath, you know, the technology.
It came from seeing a video, I suppose, about 4 or 5 months ago, which was obviously promoting the concept of the car. And it just at the time, it just sort of seemed new, and I think the idea of an electric vehicle sort of caught my imagination, because I had perceived electric vehicles as being, I don't know, not necessarily a performance car.
So what are your initial thoughts on an electric Jaguar?
Well, I had a diesel Jaguar up until recently, and I thought that was pretty good, but these seem to be well specced out, don't they? I'd love to have a drive of one to see what they actually go like. Everybody tells me they're great, but yeah, I'm very impressed with it.
I think it's a car that doesn't photograph very well. I think, particularly in the lighter colours, it's a much more muscly looking car than I expected. I think the rear looks quite plain in the press shots, but actually you've got these really nice haunches. I think it looks great, and I think what they've done with the really short sort of snub nose is kind of somehow make it look muscly rather than van-like. So I think the styling is spot on. I'm not a fan of the red and with the contrasting glossy black, but in the kind of in the flatter greys, like more of a futuristic colour, I think it looks great. I think it looks really cool.
I've always driven a saloon, so it will be my first venture into an SUV, although it meets an SUV standards, I understand, but it is still quite low, and I do actually like the design. I like the look and feel. It's got as much room as my current Jag XF has, so I have no difficulties from that point of view, and I'm sure when it comes to driving it, if all the reports are there, it'll be just as fun.
Obviously the big thing with electric cars is range. Yeah. This claims 298, which is pretty competitive with Tesla. Yeah. Is that enough for you? Does that worry you? 99%
of my driving, it would be spot on. There's a really interesting thing in Britain. If you can get a reliable 300 mile range, you can pretty much go anywhere. You know, certainly selfishly living in Birmingham, I can get up to Manchester and get to London and back. And I think particularly at this level where you've got company directors, senior people in businesses, you know, they're going to be taking those trips between cities.
My sister lives in Kent, and there's other friends all over the place, so it just about get us there, I think. So you'll stay overnight and charge it up for a few days or something. Yeah, it'd be an expensive second car, I think. So you know, if you're going to have one, you'd have to be able to go where you wanted to go in it.
The car itself, I think, is going to be fine. I don't think it's going to be a problem. But the decision that finally makes one's mind up as to when to buy an electric car, I think depends on the public charging infrastructure, which I don't think at the moment is particularly mature enough. Yes, people will say there are sufficient chargers out there, but I do worry that there is sufficient. And secondly, the range, yes, I think on a day-to-day basis the range is more than sufficient, but I think it's that public charging network and the speed of charge that's going to really make the influence as to whether you feel it's convenient.
And do you find it comfortable inside, plenty of room?
Yes, I'm not sure there's plenty of room in the back head-wise. It reminds me slightly of an Evoque, because the roof comes down at the back and it's got the smaller windows. But yeah, well, average family, I'm sure there's plenty of room. You put a couple of kids in the back and all that. maybe the odd dog. So if you sit up too straight, you start rubbing your head on the top, but apart from that, yeah, that do well. If I was 6'6" or something, I might not have the same comment.
It's a really interesting proposition. I mean, it's a viable family car, but in the way an XF is rather than the way an F-Pace is. The little touchscreen swipey thing, I don't think is very well resolved. A lovely idea, but it's fiddly. And if I'm honest, that I feel that Jaguar still, some of their buttons and things feel lightweight compared to the Germans. I don't think so. The steering wheel controls feel a bit light and fiddly. It's a good, you know, maybe coming from more of an SUV, maybe that's why the front doesn't feel huge. If I sat in an XF right next to it, it probably does feel really big inside. Yeah. You know.
Is there anything else that you think is really important to this car, or something you like or don't like that we haven't mentioned?
I am a little bit concerned perhaps about the width, but that's, I think, as we heard earlier, it's been designed because of the way the drivetrains are there to make the width of the car. It is quite a wide car, I think, not hugely wide, but you know, it's just what you're used to. I'm sure one would get used to it when driving it, but no, I mean, I can't think of anything at the moment.
Yeah, the actual shape itself is quite neat, isn't it? And I like the sort of black glass roof. Yeah, it makes a statement. It's quite nice, clean lines. So, yeah, very impressed.
It's a very, very expensive car. And I think the difficulty is that it's not a no-brainer yet. You'd still have to want an electric car to get it, if you see what I mean.
So if you were to give it a star rating as an ownership proposition out of 5 with no half stars, what would you give it?
As a whole product, well, I think I'd probably have to say 4. If I was just talking about the car without worrying about the charging infrastructure, 5.
4.
I would give it 5 out of 5 in that I would love to have this car. I think anyone would have to sit down and do their maths about where the overall cost balance is. It's not as simple as this, how much the car costs. You know, I would still be nervous about servicing and all those things that go with it, that take the polish off it. As a car, as a product, 5 out of 5. I think it's really lovely. I think it's really lovely, but some fiddly buttons that annoy me.
Okay. So although reservations around range and charging do remain, it would seem that the I-Pace is going a long way towards convincing people that electric cars can be a realistic ownership proposition. It's on sale now, priced from £59,000, whereas the entry-level Tesla Model X is £67,000, both of those prices being after the government's electric car grant has been applied. And if you're interested in buying an I-Pace or indeed any other car, you can save thousands at What Car's new car buying online service.